Hi, I'm Kristyn Burtt with the Hollywood Health Report. Today we're talking with Zippora Karz, former soloist with New York City Ballet. Now, her rise to the top wasn't that easy because she found out she was a diabetic and suffered through a misdiagnosis. Hi, Zippora.
Hi, Kristyn.
All right, take us back because I think this is what's so interesting. When did you start feeling that you weren't healthy?
My third year in the company, where I was also being given leading roles, so there was a lot of pressure on me.
The intensity level.
The intensity level, emotionally and physically, was very, very intense. So I did have symptoms at that time that I thought was just because I was stressed out, I was nervous, I was anxious, I was maybe burnt out and needed a break.
What were some of those symptoms that you were suffering from?
Okay, some of those symptoms were I was excessively thirsty. I was extremely hungry. No matter how much I ate, the hunger wouldn't go away. I was urinating constantly. And I was spaced out, dizzy in my head. I couldn't really focus very well. What got me to the doctor was that I have very sloped shoulders, and the costumes that I wore were not always made for my body. In fact, usually they weren't, because we were dancing different pieces every single night. And so the costumes were rubbing underneath my arms, and they were scraping so badly that I developed sores. And it had happened before, but they never became infected before. But the sores became infected, and no matter what I did, I took antibiotics, I tried everything, they just got worse and worse and worse. So actually, I got to the doctor because the infections were so bad I couldn't lift my arms anymore. And as a ballerina, you know, you have to lift your arms, and the performance was coming up, and I had all this pressure on me, and I couldn't lift my arms, and that's why I went to the doctor.
Wow. Now, did the doctor just think, okay, this is, you know, a dermatology issue, or did they think that there's something else wrong?
Well, the first doctor I went to actually was a dermatologist. Mm-hmm. The story goes, the dermatologist said to me, I can't give you more answers because this might be some bigger issue. You should go to an endocrinologist. So when I went to the endocrinologist, she did blood work. And so the blood work came back and she told me I had diabetes. Now, when I was diagnosed with the word diabetes, I thought, what does that mean to me? And hopefully it's either a misdiagnosis or the numbers will go back once I get some rest. I never thought that it was actually something I actually had that was going to affect me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Now, did they diagnose you with type 2 diabetes at first?
Nobody said you had type 2 diabetes, but they put me on some oral medication. They never put me on insulin. So when I read the books, I saw that for people who need to be more active and to eat better, they are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and oral medication will help that. So they put me on oral medication. I said, oh great, I'm type 2 diabetic. That actually was good news to me because I thought, well, if I just eat better and I exercise more, maybe I can reverse the diabetes, because as a type 2 diabetic, you can actually reverse the illness. It's not the autoimmune type that is type 1 diabetes.
Well, can I ask, because if I think of type 2 diabetes, and we talk a lot about it in health in the United States, I think of someone that is obese. Being a ballerina, you're anything but obese.
Well, that was why I realized something's wrong here, because I thought, well, we can always eat better. I actually, at that time, I was always very health conscious growing up, but at that time, because I was so hungry all the time, I was craving things and eating things that maybe were more sweets, more carbohydrates that I had been used to. Mm-hmm. So I knew I could do better with the diet. I just could not figure out how I was going to exercise more. And also I was extremely thin. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't make sense to me. So what happened is about 2 years into my diagnosis.
2 years?
I know, about 2 years. Well, there's something called the honeymoon phase of diabetes, where for up to 2 years, go figure, it happened 2 years, the disease can appear to be in remission. And so what happened to me is I was in the honeymoon phase of diabetes, and so the oral medication that I was put on actually worked. So I had convinced myself I had type 2 diabetes and that I was going to be able to be somebody who could reverse it and never have to go on insulin. So 2 years into my diagnosis, all of a sudden everything changed and I couldn't keep my blood sugar levels down. No matter how well I ate, no matter how low carbohydrate diet I did or stayed away from anything with any kind of sugar in it, I didn't even eat fruit. I couldn't keep my numbers down. And then I went to another doctor, and that's when I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, which is a totally different diagnosis. It's an autoimmune illness that you can never reverse. And I was put on insulin shots. So 2 years into my diagnosis is really when I had to come out of denial. and have to realize that I actually had this disease.
Well, let me ask you, how did you manage to balance your job where performance is something that is rewarded with bigger roles, you know, other things like that? Did you struggle? Did they understand what diabetes was?
You know, I struggled tremendously, and I struggled also with how much to tell them. Because if they really knew, everybody knew I had diabetes, but if they really knew the moment-to-moment potential of what could go wrong, I really don't know that they would have taken chances on me. Maybe they would have, but I didn't want to take that chance. So I never told them about anything that I went through. It was really a personal thing that I went through on my own and shared with my personal friends or the people that I was working with. And it was a day-to-day question for me. I didn't know. I didn't know if I could stay in this profession. Every day I said to myself, maybe today is the day I go in and say, thank you so much. This has been an incredible experience, but I got to go find another career.
Wow. No matter what it is, you do get a little bit of that, why me?
That's right.
Why did this happen to me?
That's right. Well, in my personal story, in my life, I never felt innocent in that, oh, why me? I'm a victim. I actually felt, I had a lot of blame towards my body. I think it's my personality. I think that I had, my body is so inadequate and inefficient, and so it was a reason to hate myself more. So I was kind of stuck in a pattern of self-blame, and I would become destructive. Sometimes I wouldn't take the right amount of insulin, or sometimes I would purposely eat. Now, mind you, I'm not a candy bar eater. I never was, but when I would get in this destructive tendency, I would eat a candy bar just to prove to my body that it was gonna screw up and my blood sugars were gonna go too high. And it was crazy. It was a crazy place where you feel so out of control of your own life that the only thing you can do is blame something. And I blamed myself.
Yeah, with that sabotage thing that you
sabotage,
do,
that's right, that's right.
Which people do on a daily basis.
That's right.
No matter whether they have diabetes
That's right.
or not.
And again, that was one of my hurdles. Like I said, the emotional aspect of it was just as big of a hurdle as learning how to physically take care of myself, learning what to eat, how to take the right amount of insulin before performing. Emotional issues, it's so important. It's so important to be able to understand yourself and find a place of acceptance, not in a corny, new agey way, but in a real way of just, you know, this is happening and how can I best help myself?
All right, so tell us where everyone can find more information about you.
You can go to my website, ZipporaKarz.com, and you can contact me through the website. My book is on the website.
Find out about your teaching schedule,
That's
everything
right.
else.
That's right, everything.
You do it all.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Zippora. We so appreciate you sharing your story. I'm Kristyn Burtt with LifeScript.com.